Hi, welcome to episode 3 of my Knitting My Capsule Wardrobe series. Today I have another cozy knitting vlog for you, where I take you along on the process of knitting 2 more items for my winter capsule wardrobe. So I thought I would just start again by showing you my mood board one more time and going over the goals that I had for these 2 projects. So in the last episode, my goal was really to focus on elevating my basics and filling out my wardrobe with those pieces that are like the workhorse pieces. They're not the loudest pieces, they're not the most statement of pieces, they are mostly neutrals, but they kind of carry the rest of the wardrobe on their shoulders. And I feel like since doing those 2 projects, I actually have that function kind of checked off. It feels like my wardrobe is functioning in that area now. And so now this time we get to have a little bit more fun. When I look at my mood board as well as my closet, like I mentioned, it does have a good mix of those basic pieces, but also a little bit more statement pieces with some personality. In my wardrobe now, I have pink and blue in terms of louder colors, but one color that I actually love to wear, but I find it a little bit difficult to seamlessly integrate it into my wardrobe and make it easy to style, is the color red. And you can see on my mood board, I do have an image on there with a red cardigan. Also looking forward to the next season, my spring capsule plans. I'm starting to brainstorm a little bit. I know that I want to wear a red cardigan, and I've seen this one from Cezanne, the French brand. It's their Emile cardigan. And I find that the way they've styled it feels very versatile and very in line with my own personal style, where they are styling it not only just with a t-shirt and jeans, but also with like a midi dress or a midi skirt with florals. So we're going to try and accomplish that in this episode today and see if we can make a dupe for that and see how that performs in my wardrobe. The other area is an accessory. Knitted accessories are not necessarily something that I knit a lot. In the past, I've knit the Breeze bag by PetiteKnit, and that has become quite a well-loved piece in my wardrobe, and I find myself reaching for it a lot in the spring and the fall as a transitional piece. And I don't really have anything that plays that role in my winter capsule, and so I want to kind of fill that gap as well. So those are the goals for this episode, and I hope you enjoy. Let's get on to the knitting process. Okay, I've been a responsible knitter and I've made some swatches. And I'm glad I did so because I struggled a little bit. So the pattern calls for 5mm needles. So I first swatched that. Here's what that looks like. Really pretty. Half fisherman's rib. That's the first time I've done half fisherman's rib and I really like it. It's actually not very hard at all. It just takes a little while because every visible row actually is made up of 2 rows. Yes, so 5mm needles. So I'm supposed to get a gauge of 12 stitches per 28 rows in a 10 by 10 centimeter square. When I measured this after washing and blocking, now when I blocked it, I did not stretch it out. It said to lightly block. It actually said to steam block, but I didn't want to go dig out my steamer, so I just blocked it like normal, but I didn't stretch it or anything when I let it dry. I just kind of let it take whatever shape it wanted. And that gave me 15 stitches and 30 rows. So I'm off by 3 stitches and 2 rows. And so I tried to calculate if I were to knit my size, which would be a small, if I had perfect gauge, and that would give me 22 centimeters of positive ease, which is right within the recommended. If I were to knit that with my gauge, I would end up with pretty much 0 positive ease. So instead of it being 111.5 centimeters total bust circumference of the garment, it would be 88.67. And that's, I think my bust circumference is like 89 centimeters. So yeah, that's even a little bit of negative ease. So we obviously don't want that. So then I was thinking, okay, if I knit the medium and have this many stitches on my needles, what circumference will that give me? And that worked out to be 95 centimeters. So at the minimum, I would need 104 centimeters of, to get the minimum positive ease recommended for this pattern. So even a size medium at 95 centimeters is still about 10 centimeters short. And so then I thought, geez, do I size up 2 and go to the large? That would give me 103 centimeters, which is still just shy of even the minimum for the positive ease to match the fit of a small. So I said, forget that. Let's try sizing up the needles. So I knit another swatch on 5.5mm needles, and again washed and blocked it and didn't stretch it or anything. That then gave me 15 stitches by 28 rows. So my rows were correct, but my stitches were not. Again, then I thought to myself, you know, fisherman's rib, half fisherman's rib, it really can open up a lot with blocking if you want it to, without it looking stretched. So I reblocked it and I stretched it ever so slightly. And you know what, you guys? I got the perfect gauge. So I said, all right, I'll just remember that when I finish my garment, all I need to do is just lightly stretch it out, and that'll get me the perfect fit. So I'm gonna knit the small, and I'm just gonna follow the stitch counts, and I should, in theory, get the exact bust circumference in the end and the desired positive ease. Yeah, that was a lot of brain power. And I'm glad I have that figured out. So that's the plan. 5.5mm needles and slightly stretch it when I block. Okay, I've been knitting for a while, and this is how far I've gotten on the yoke. I'm currently working the raglan shaping. So what you do is you start by working several rows without raglan shaping. Can you see? From here to here. And that helps establish the, almost like what German short rows would be if you were knitting in the round, but shaping the neckline. I've never done this type of increase before, but you increase 2 stitches into 1 stitch. So you actually have 3 stitches into 1 stitch below. And that's to keep this brioche, sorry, not brioche, but half fisherman's rib pattern here. And you do a yarn over plus another stitch into the stitch you just did. I don't think I'm explaining that very well, but it's a new technique and it was kind of fun. However, I made a little bit of a mistake. The increased rate is far less frequent than normal because it's half fisherman's rib. And I kind of messed that up. So here's my first increase. And I was knitting, basically I was increasing 2 rounds earlier than I should for the first 3. So after the first 3, I realized my mistake and I couldn't be bothered to unravel it all, but I'm thinking it might be fine. So I'm gonna finish the raglan increases and then I'll see what the yoke depth looks like. I'll show it to you guys, we'll try it on together, and then we'll make a decision. For right now, I'm just gonna keep going and I'm gonna get to that checkpoint and then I'll check in with you. So I finished the raglan increases. So I have the correct number of stitches on my needles. So let's see how this yoke depth is looking with that mistake I mentioned earlier. So this is how it's looking so far. And I do think it's looking really cute. I think the increases look nice. The question is the yoke depth deep enough? I believe that I would have an inch more in depth if I did not make that mistake, which I don't think is visible when looking at it. But it did affect the measurements of the garment, but I think it should be okay actually. So if my actual armpit is here, and I do have about an inch here, and let's see how generous we are with casting on under the arm. Not too much, but I think it should be okay. I think I'm just gonna keep going. And you know what, if I get to the end and I feel like the yoke depth is just a tad too short, I can always just stretch it in blocking. An inch in half fisherman's rib, no problem. So smooth sailing from here. I am going to split for sleeves now and continue on to the body. Okay, a little update. I have finished the body and I'm trying it on here. It's gonna fit a little funny right now, obviously, but here is what we have so far. I knit it to the exact length that it called for in the pattern. And then I did the 2 inches of ribbing at the bottom. I did omit the twisted rib and I just did the normal rib. So small modification there. But we were unsure about the yoke depth. So how are we looking? I think it's great. I don't think that the mistake I made really is that noticeable. I am a little bit concerned, to be honest, with how much this is pulling together at the bottom. It's so hard to tell how it's going to fit when I'm not so pregnant. I don't know. I might just have to stretch the ribbing a little bit. But I think it's okay. I won't know until I have this baby. But anyway, yeah. So I started on the sleeve. And I am just continuing in pattern. No modifications. I don't have to do any decreases until... Actually, I don't think I do any decreases because it's got a little bit of a balloon sleeve. I don't quite remember if there are some right before the cuff or not, but I will obviously update you when we get to that point. I am knitting it in the round now. So with half fisherman's rib, usually what you do is you do purl 1, knit 1 into the stitch below, purl 1, blah, 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 on the right side. And then on the wrong side, you are knitting every stitch, which means if you are always on the right side in the round, that means every other row you need to purl every stitch. And I thought I would not enjoy that a lot more than I actually am. It's really not that bad. I don't even really mind the purling, to be honest, so that's good. As far as the color, I am really enjoying this red and how it's working up. I just am a little bit concerned that it's going to look Christmassy. Red is so tricky for me. I need it to be a cool toned red that almost has like a berry undertone, which I think this does. I think this color looks really nice. In fact, it matches my red lipstick really well. But you always run the risk with that specific shade of red of it looking Christmassy. So hopefully you're not getting Christmas vibes right now. I mean, I'm going to wear it regardless, so oh well, right? Sad news though, I am running out of yarn. Oh my gosh. So I have enough of the cascade, but the stash yarn that I'm trying to bust, the brushed alpaca silk, I have 1 extra ball after this. Somehow the body used up 4.5 skeins of the brushed alpaca silk. I was expecting it to take like 3, and it's going on 5. So I did order some more, although I think I over-ordered. So ironically, this stash busting project is going to leave me with a couple balls left in stash of this. But you know what? Whatever. Maybe I'll make my daughter a little matching red cardigan someday. I think we solved that problem right there because that sounds extremely cute. Anyway, okay, yeah, so I am just going to keep going on the sleeve. And I think it's smooth sailing from here. Really enjoying this process, and I think it's going to look really beautiful. Okay, it's been a couple days since I updated you guys. I have been working hard on my cardigan, but I just haven't been able to check in for a little while because since we last chatted, I had my baby shower and we had to travel for that. And then we had to basically flip this house upside down, getting ready for baby. We live in kind of a small townhouse and we had to just make a lot of room, assemble a lot of things, move furniture, declutter, organize. Yeah, so I've been busy, but I have been finding time to knit. And I finally have a chance to sit down and actually chat with you guys. So sorry I didn't get footage of me actually knitting, but here's the little update. I have finished both sleeves. Last I showed you, I was, I think, ready to start the cuff. And I did lengthen it by about 2 inches. Yeah, it calls for 15 inches and I did 17. And that's just because I kind of have long arms and I have to do that on most sweaters that I knit. And then I used 4.5 millimeter needles instead of 4 for the cuffs. And I think it looks really nice. So last night I picked up stitches along the front. Oh, can you even see? Last night I picked up stitches along the front neck band, or button band, I mean. And I am choosing to do the version where you make buttonholes. So it's a double knitted button band. And in her sample, she just has snaps. And so she doesn't actually have to make any buttonholes, which is nice. And she does say that you have the option to do it that way, but then add decorative buttons or non-functional buttons on the front of one of the plackets. But I didn't want like when it's open, I didn't want the snaps, like the back side of the snaps to be showing on the other placket. So I'm just gonna do real functional buttons. However, she doesn't really give much instructions on how to space them out. She tells you how many stitches to set aside for your buttonhole, but in terms of how far they actually are spread out, while taking into account the neckband having a button here, she doesn't really give much instruction. So I kind of just tried to figure it out myself. My math was not very accurate. I tried to do a calculation that I thought made sense in my head, and then when I actually translated that to stitch markers on the picked up stitches, it just did not line up. So I started with that and then I just tweaked as needed. And you know, it's not precisely perfect. I don't have the exact amount of stitches between every single button, but it's about the same. I think I'm off by maybe 1 or 2, by like 1 on some of these. But I think in the grand scheme of things, you're not going to be able to notice. So I am going to do, really from only my second time ever, the technique where you make buttonholes in a double knitted button band without breaking the yarn. I actually tried it last night, but I mustn't have been, my brain just mustn't have been working very well, because not only did I like really struggle with the math of this, of the buttonhole placement, but then it took me like 2 or 3 tries to attempt the buttonhole, and I still had to frog it all. So we're gonna attempt that again today, where I have a little more sleep. I'm a little more, my brain is a little less fatigued from the day. We're reaching that point in this pregnancy where I'm not functioning. I'm sure any of you ladies who have had children can relate, but those end stages, your brain just doesn't quite compute like it usually does. And any mental power just takes so much effort and energy, and you're just wiped all day. I have like to-do lists, right? And What would normally take me maybe an hour is taking me the whole day. So I'm trying to spread things out and have grace for myself, because sometimes I find myself like making a to-do list. I want to get this done, this done, this done, be really productive because I wasn't yesterday. I had to take a nap. That's not non-productive. I'm growing a human being. I can take a nap and still be productive. But if I don't finish those to-do lists that I make unrealistic, then I like get so hard on myself. That's just a little tangent, but I'm sure you guys can relate if you've been in this position. Anyway, this is the next step. So wish me luck as I attempt for the 4th time this double knitted button band. I know I can do it. I've done it before. So stay tuned. And here is the final garment. I think it turned out really close to the original Cezanne inspiration. I am still on the hunt for the perfect set of matching red buttons, but other than that, I love how this garment turned out. I think it brings a fun pop of red to my wardrobe, which I was really missing before. And I anticipate getting lots of wear out of this, both for the rest of this winter season and for spring. Hopefully the red proves to be easy to style and pair with the other pieces in my wardrobe, but regardless, I think that it brings a fun, bright color to my closet, especially during the gray, dreary weather of the season. I can foresee myself wearing this with brown suede accessories for the cold weather, or with floral prints to transition it into spring once the weather warms up. The finished fabric is really soft. It's very plush and squishy with that half fisherman's rib texture. It feels great next to skin, but I'm curious to see how these two yarns hold up, as it's a new combination for me. But overall, I'm very happy with this finished object and excited to be adding it to my wardrobe. All right, y'all, little update on the winter clutch. I've gotten this far. So you start with Judy's Magic Cast On. I did have to refresh my memory on how to do that. And I accidentally cast on twice as many stitches, but we've since remedied that and gotten off to a good start. I finished the first section. So you can see I've got all my live stitches here. And then the pattern is coming together nicely. Ooh, look at that halo. This yarn is really nice. It's very rustic. I don't know, it smells very sheepy. I don't know if this would be good for like a garment, unless you can tolerate really like toothy rustic wool, but it's not very soft. But for a bag, I think that's perfect because it'll help it keep its structure really nicely. Additionally, the stitch pattern of this winter clutch is quite stiff. You can see it's quite tight. It is a little bit hard on my hands, I will say that, but it's a little project and I think it'll be okay. But the update is that I finished the first section. So you start from your dual cast on and you knit in one direction in pattern for so many centimeters. And now I'm going to switch my cable, my barber cord and my cable so that I can knit from this cast on edge this direction for the same length. So it should end up about about that big. And then I think from there I pick up all the sides and start making the actual bag part. So this is just the bottom so far. But look how pretty that yarn is. Can you see it? I am loving the variation in the color. It's a little bit light gray here, a little bit dark gray there. It's got a beautiful halo. Absolutely loving it. I think it's going to be gorgeous. So that's my little update. Off we go. I wanted to check in because we have reached a checkpoint, or rather we've gone a little past a checkpoint on this project, and that is I am now working on the sides. So I finished the bottom. You can see that seam in the middle where we did that Judy's Magic cast on, and then I knit to the specified length here and then here as well. Then what it has you do is go around and pick up stitches, knit across these live stitches, pick up more, knit across the live stitches, and then start working in the round. I don't have my needles in there right now because I was using them for another project while we traveled a little bit, but I'm going to put them back in here and continue working on this. So I believe I am just under halfway in terms of how long to make this. And then you do some stockinette to fold it over the clasp. So I'll definitely check back in when I get to that point. So far it's going really smooth. Now that I'm working the round, the stitch pattern is worked slightly differently, but it is still really nice. Still hurting my hands a little bit, but again, I'll just kind of not knit on it for very long at a time and just listen to my body so that I don't injure myself. But it's a small project, so I figure it is fine. Okay, we've reached the point where I'm done with the knitting on this project. So you can see I've finished the little stockinette section at the top here. And that is going to be what curls over the actual like clutch clasp. So this is the one I got on Amazon. It's pretty good and it does fit. The dimensions were slightly different than the one that PetiteKnit sells, but with it being a stretchy knit fabric, because I think mine was slightly bigger, but it's a, you know, knit fabric is stretchy, so it pretty much fits. If I can somehow show you. Okay, that's not working. Okay, there's a rough idea. So the next step is to sew this onto this. Then I'll be able to attach my chain. And PetiteKnit recommends that when you're sewing your chain on, you sew around the actual frame. However, my clasp is my chain is a little bit different than the one that she sells because it only has the clasp part and it doesn't have a little loop here. So hers has this clasp and then it has a little loop that you actually sew onto the clutch and then you hook this onto the loop. Well, I'm gonna have to just hook this right onto the clutch and then the last step will be to make the lining. So stay tuned, I'll keep you updated. Alright, here is my completed winter clutch. I really love how unique yet classic this accessory is, and I'm excited to see how I style it in my wardrobe. I will say though, I'm not totally satisfied with how I've attached the chain. I kind of just clipped it to the knit fabric on the inside of the frame, but I'd like to go back and reinforce it. I just kind of had some trouble with the different techniques I tried, so I'll need to brainstorm a little bit before I revisit that. But I do still love this piece and I'm excited to wear it. Hopefully it proves as useful as my Breeze bag by PetiteKnit, but I'll of course keep you guys updated on how it performs in my wardrobe with time. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope you really enjoyed. I think that these two pieces are really going to play a wonderful role in my wardrobe. Time will tell if they are as versatile as I hope they are, and if I actually wear them as much as I hope I will. So stay tuned for that analysis in future videos. Thank you for joining me in this episode and continuing to join me on this journey as I try to knit my dream capsule wardrobe. I will see you in the next one. Take care.